Paul, obviously this is a rescheduled fight. You had to change things. What was it difficult, or is it tough to make adjustments to change your timing like that and lose a fight?
It's always tough when it comes to that close to a fight. When you're a couple of weeks out, it's tough to then wind yourself back up to go again, because at that point you're sort of winding down, getting ready for the travel, getting ready so you're not peaking too early. So ultimately, when it came to this, it was adding another 3 months, and you're like, my opponent's standing in southpaw. I need to constantly watch this guy's videos again for another 3 months. Like, this guy's got far too much time in his hands.
Was it important for you to reschedule this fight? I mean, when did it get canceled? Did you care? Did you want to put this fight back together? Or were you like, hey, just give me anybody?
Ultimately, that's what I asked for. I said, is there any fights available? And they said, listen, we'd really like you to fight Jamahal Hill. And I think it's to do with the test. It's been mentioned that I'm the gatekeeper of the division. If you can get by Paul, then you're in the top 10, and that's ultimately what this is, I think. So, yeah, it's that was the fight they wanted, and I'm like, I just want to fight. So in March when this happened, we had said, can we get MD out the top 15, MD in the top 15, because they said everybody in the top 15 was matched up. So when your boss tells you you're working, and when he tells you you're not working, you're not working.
Do you that term gatekeeper, right? Like, I feel like a lot of people use it like almost in a derogatory fashion, right? But it's not, you know what I mean? So do you welcome that label?
Yeah, it does. It doesn't bother me. It comes, as I said, it's a job, innit? And if the UFC don't want to push me up the rankings and they want me to stay here and just be the guy who does the damage, then I'm happy to do that. Like, as I said, this is a job first and foremost, and I treat it that way, with regards to training, with regards to all this sort of media stuff. It's a job first and foremost, and my job is to be where my boss tells me to be.
Meanwhile, Jamal has said it's not just business, it's personal for him in this fight. What do you think? Is this personal for you?
So it's not personal. This is the fight business, isn't it? Anybody you go up against, they're angry, they're emotional in the fight. But if you spend 6 months being angry and emotional leading into it, then it's wasted energy. Just focus on yourself and get ready for the fight. And he's very emotional. I was outside signing posters, and he came up to me and was asking me if I was on drugs. like what, I totally. It was like, you can watch the video. It's on. Somebody had caught it. One of the coaches had caught it and posted it all over social media. So it's just this weird interaction where I'm kind of taken aback by he's like wasting time to come over to me while we're all doing media. Like, get a grip yourself, man. Like, conduct yourself in a orderly fashion, please.
So does that bring any like added motivation or added emotion or added feeling to the fight, or do you just say, hey, I'm punching in and punching out and doing my thing?
That's exactly how I look at it. You punch in, you punch out, and it's the job. And the job in front of me is to stop him, because ultimately my goal is to make it up to that contender. If my bosses have got a different role for me, then that's absolutely fine. But my goal is to beat him within the first 2 rounds and progress on my career.
Last thing for me, I was going to ask kind of what kind of fight you expect, right? Because you're capable of dominating people. But we've seen some heroics and some back and forth work for you. So what kind of fight do you think this one is?
I see this a second round submission. I do see him coming out very, very gun happy at the start, trying to finish the fight early. We've seen that happen to me before, where I just ride that storm, and then I'm like Hulk, when he hulks up and he's like getting stronger by the 3rd round, and then that's when I normally do my best work. But I genuinely believe it'll be the second round submission.
Paul, right here.
How you doing, friend?
Jamal's obviously, he's undefeated in his career. Oddly enough, I think it's one of the few fighters where you were already in the UFC before he even made his professional debut. At one point, you were obviously undefeated. So when you are a young, undefeated fighter finally getting into the UFC and getting your first test, what is going through your mind? Do you still feel invincible, or are you just getting ready to take this fight one fight at a time?
It's very difficult when you come into the UFC if you're unbeaten. You've not mastered your craft at the moment. I spent the last 4 years of my career in the UFC learning my craft, learning how to deal with the emotion, learning how to deal with the social media, learning how to deal with all that kind of stuff. And not only that, improve as a fighter. So I've learned my craft in here. I still think he's a bit green, and I still think he's got some learning to do. And I believe that I'm the man to teach him.
Outside of the learning curve you said he has, does he do anything well from the previous fights that you've seen him do?
Yep, to make it to the UFC, you're no slouch. Everybody in the UFC is killers, and we've seen him piece up OSP, but we've not seen his grappling being tested the way I can test it. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, here, Paul.
How you doing, my man?
Would it be safe to say that you plan on taking this man into deep waters on Saturday night?
Yeah, that's the way we go. We drag him into a deep water and see if he can swim. And if he can swim, I take my hat off to him. But I don't know if he can swim. I think he's still in the the wee water wings. I think he's still wearing them.
So would it be safe to say that you think skills and experience will pay the bills?
It is. I like a rhyme, man. Skills and experience pay the bills. I probably made it sound a lot worse, but you made it sound sweet.
With him being explosive, do you think you're going to have to weather the storm coming out the first? Because he comes out pretty hot.
Yeah, he comes out hot, and that emotion shows in all his fights. And it even showed when we were standing in front of each other. He's very emotional, and emotions can be used in two ways. It can either fuel you very, very well, or it can can consume you. And I believe it's going to consume him. Being in front of the new crowds that we've not seen for the last year. This is stuff I've done many fights in the UFC. I've fought Shogun Rua in a week's notice in Brazil with the fans hating me. I don't think he's experienced this emotion that the fans bring.
And since, not to bring out a negative, since the Menifeld loss in 2019, what adjustments have you made? Because you look like a different fighter, and it's like you got that low key swag going on that we start to see. And each time we see you got a new wrinkle. Are you going to add some more wrinkles that we hadn't seen on Saturday?
That's exactly what it comes down to. It comes down to learning that craft. It's about how to deal with these fights and fighters. As I said, I was very green when I first came to the UFC, and now, as you're saying, age and experience and adding these wrinkles to my games make a massive difference. When I joined the UFC, I had a knife in my penknife. Now I've got the scissors, I've got the toothpick, I've got the wee sunglasses in there as well. So all I'm doing is adding to that wee Swiss Army knife.
And final question for me: when y'all lock eyes at those face-offs and stuff, are you gonna try to get into his head? Or are you not gonna say anything? Because you already can tell you say he's gonna be amped up. Are you gonna play on that and try to get him to use some nervous energy?
Yeah.
Or are you just gonna be a silent assassin?
No, it's going to be that emotion. It's going to be right up into his face. It's going to be make him respect me and see if he's got that chink in his armour. You know that way when you see like the twitch, the move, he breaks eye contact. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to have that tartan face paint on. I'm going to have the blue face paint on and ready to go to war, as all my Scottish ancestors did.
Paul back here.
How you doing, man?
You mentioned the Shogun fight there, the two of them anyway. I'm just curious, after you got the win, like very passionate fan base, whether Brazilian or for Shogun specifically, what was the reaction like? And do you still hear from the fans who are upset to this day?
I always hear from fans that are upset. Even more emotional than the Brazilians are the Russians after I've beat two of their prospects. I think when it comes down to fans, if you're a fan of the sport, then it doesn't matter if your favourite fighter loses. If you can gain some respect from their fans, like if a Shogun who are fans like Paul, you know what? Shogun's my favourite fighter, but I enjoyed watching you. That's a win for me.
And you're on the same card as your fellow Scott Jojo again. Just curious, is that a cool thing for you?
Yeah, we don't get the opportunity to have many chats as she stays in the US, but it's always great to see her. She's so happy, she's so polite, she's representing Scotland in a positive light. It's an amazing thing to see.
Best of luck, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you. We done? Question?
How big is MMA and the UFC getting in Scotland, and are you recognized often? And how big do you think it can get?
UFC is still in its early days in the UK, never mind in Scotland. I think people like Leon Edwards getting these opportunities, I think like Joanne Calderwood getting great opportunities as well, is making massive waves in the sport. Being honest, it comes down to the Conor McGregor factor. A lot of people in the UK took notice of MMA due to Conor McGregor. He brings this star quality, and it made MMA a mainstream sport, and I imagine it's the same all over the world. He's just made massive waves within this sport.
Thank you.
Sweet.